Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for spending some time with me today as we gather together on this day, as we live into all that is going on in the world. Um, how do you see the world? I think it's interesting because often it's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of our experiences, what we have gone through in our lives, how we see what we were taught, what we've experienced, how we live into that is how we view the world. And the thing is, we all experience it differently because we've all had different experiences. Yes, we can relate. We can say, hey, I've experienced something similar that you have, but I haven't necessarily experienced it in the way you have because you've had different experiences to that point than I have. And I think it's so important in our world today, especially, to to think about that, to think about what perspective am I viewing this from, and how does that change if I see it differently. Um, it's one thing to see someone as you're driving down the highway who has a flat tire. It's another thing to be that person trying to change your tire on the highway. It's this opportunity to see someone else through their eyes, not through your own eyes. And often the only way for us to do it is to be in conversation with them, to connect, because there are so many things we don't know, we won't understand, we won't grasp because we don't have the perspective, we don't have the lived experience in that to understand it or to understand it fully. Yes, I can empathize, I can sympathize, I can see that, maybe this action is not right or that decision is not right, but until I live it or until I seek to understand it, then then it's hard for me to be able to see where someone is coming from, to see it from their perspective. There's a passage in Romans where it talks about the renewing of our minds so that we can discern the will of God, to know what is good and what is acceptable and what is perfect. Um, and I think part of that is this perspective of what are we open to learning? How can we see it from different vantage points? And as a community, how can we live into what that might look like differently? I had a colleague of mine who posted about things that he doesn't understand. And he says, when I look at the night sky, I wonder what is out there. I'll never know. When I look at the night sky, I love that I can see it and imagine how far it goes. He says, there's a lot of things in the Bible that I do not understand, but I get this. Let love be genuine. Hate what is evil. Hold on to what is good. That again is from Romans 12. And I think it's, you know, what is that perspective? I had a conversation with someone this past weekend about, what is and what is not political. Should hunger be considered political? Should feeding people be considered political? His response was, well, no, the government shouldn't have any duty to do that. Um, and we didn't dive into it deeply, but the question becomes, you know, what is my perspective? What is your perspective? Um, what does it mean to be hungry in the world today? And is it something that, yes, do I believe people need to work? Absolutely. But I also believe that the work that they do should be paid a fair wage, that we need to find um, equitable ways to help when needed, um, and to make it so that it's not, this space where they're at is not something where they get stuck in, but an opportunity to see it grow and to get them and uplift them, um, because as community we are called to care for one another. Again, that's my perspective. That's my faithful understanding, is that we are called to see not just those we agree with, but those we disagree with, those who are our neighbors. That division needs to really be something that we fight against, that we find commonalities, that we find ways to have discussions, to learn from one another, even if we may not be able to see from their perspective fully, or agree, or that we can agree with one another on some things, but that we can find an opportunity to live into this notion of community more deeply, that we can seek the transformation that the division sort of seeks to keep us and isolate us, and keep us in our own echo chambers. We only hear what we want to hear, or we only hear from the perspectives that we agree with, yet it doesn't challenge us to grow. It doesn't challenge us to see from someone else's vantage points, and it becomes easy. Faith is not easy. Caring for someone, serving someone who can't help us isn't easy, but it's faithful. Jesus calls us in this season of Easter that we as the church are in through these upcoming months. We get to celebrate. We get also, though, called out, because that's what Jesus did. The disciples were hiding. He shows up, he calls them out of their locked rooms, hiding away. He says, this is not where you need to be. You need to be out there in the world, caring for people, serving people, engaging people, loving people. That is where we all need to be. And those are opportunities for all of us to see and to experience and to live into this perspective in a new way, with new opportunities here today. So I invite you to be part of that. I invite you to ask those questions, to be curious, to engage with one another, to live into this hope, and to be open to seeing something anew today from a different perspective. Hope you guys have a great day wherever you are, wherever this finds you. I invite you to comment, to ask questions, to share it, to engage in this community that we live into. Join us for worship as we gather this Sunday at 8:30 and 10:30 on site and online, as we live into this season of Easter with joy, with hope being sent out into the world. Take care, everybody. God bless. Have a great week.